Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Morning, everyone. Ray Flowers, FantasyGuru.com. Got my iced coffee this morning. Not something I normally do, but took the puppy out. By the way, you can follow him on Instagram at Ollie Aussie Dog. Took him out for a walk this morning. Got a coffee from my local barista. I think that's what they call him, right? Not bad. A little iced mocha latte. That's how we do it here in California. I'm Ray Flowers. Follow me on Twitter, X, Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, all those places at the Ray Flowers. Follow me over at FantasyGuru.com. In Discord answering baseball questions. In Discord answering football questions. Helping you out, as is the entire staff, large sector community in fantasy sports over at fantasyguru.com. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Get signed up. I'll throw it up here on the screen. I don't know if it's still good or not. I heard yesterday may have been the last day, but you can still try. Sometimes we're a little slow at removing discounts when we put them up there. Right now we have a buy one, get one free offer, or we had yesterday. Try it again. It's only Tuesday. If you have a problem, send a note to support at fantasyguru.com. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. Get signed up for the product. Get 2 for 1. Fingers crossed it still works. If you send a note to support at fantasyguru.com, they'll probably help you out. But what you get for the price of 1 is 2. You get DFS football and wagering football for free. Well, 1 for free. You know what I'm saying. 2 for 1. Either buy the DFS football product and get the wagering product for free. Buy the wagering product and get the DFS product for football for free. 2 for 1. BOGO, as they say. Buy one, get one free. Check it out over at fantasyguru.com. It's a pretty damn good offer. You want to get involved with seasonal fantasy football, we got you over there. If you want to get involved in DFS and wagering, we got you right here with a 2 for 1 package. So check that out over at fantasyguru.com. What are we talking about on the show today? Let's throw it up on the screen. It's a Tuesday, so we'll talk to Armando Marsal in about 25 minutes. Talk some football with him, as you can see there on the screen. Plan to talk to him about a couple of tight ends for Monday Night Football. And then we'll talk a lot about the backfield. A lot of backfield situations kind of coming together, coalescing, if you will. We'll talk to him in about 25 minutes about that. Before that, we'll talk some baseball here at the start of the show today. I'll also talk some Monday Night Football. Or I'll talk some Monday Night Football before we visit with Armando Marsal. The baseball product over at fantasyguru.com is obviously still rocking and rolling. Yesterday, put up a article looking at the pitching for the week. Kind of gave my thumbs up to the guys I thought would be good starts for the week, so check that out. Of course, as we'll discuss here in a few moments, things have changed. Teams are already massaging their rotations. That's something I hinted at the article. It's why a lot of you, I think, don't play the final week of the season in their head-to-head setups, which, again, is pretty weak. You should play the whole season. I say the same thing in football. You should play all 18 weeks. I know a lot of people don't do that. I think you should. For those of you that are playing in Roto or, just maybe you're playing DFS. Maybe you're wagering. Still got some coverage for you there at baseball side of things over at fantasyguru.com. Okay, let's dive in and talk about that. Oh, what the hell? I forgot to say where we're doing this show. I'm a little scattered this morning. Got some things going on behind the scenes. So bear with me. I apologize if I've seemed a little scattered here the first few minutes. There are a multitude of ways to catch the show. Wherever you're at, there's probably another way to do it. Wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it's Spotify, Apple iTunes, YouTube Music, Pandora, type in Fantasy Sports Daily. You should be able to find us there. At the top of the page at fantasyguru.com, there's a toolbar, and one of those tabs is Elite Plus. Click on that, and you can find all the shows. You can find Jeff Mann's show, Armando Marshall's show, Justin Fensterman's show, this show, the Race Guru show. Find all that on the website. Just scroll down. You'll find this show catalog. And there's also 3 places where you can watch the show live or at any point on demand, whenever you want. If you're watching live, as we talk about every day, you can leave comments and questions that we can address throughout the show. YouTube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ, and Twitter X @FantasyGuruSite. All right, let's dive in here and let's start out with some disappointing news. Ozzie Albies is done for the season. He's got a fractured hamate bone. He's been placed on the injured list. At least they put him on the injured list, which would help out for those of you that are still playing. I've seen a lot of talk about this Ozzie Albies thing. He's got a $7 million club option next year. And I keep seeing, oh, is he going to come back next year? Are the Braves going to let him go? And I mean, I don't know. $7 million for a borderline all-star caliber performer. I don't know why they wouldn't do that. So he's 28 years old. Was this season messy? Yeah, it was messy. If he hadn't gotten hurt, he also would have had one more RBI and one more run probably this final week of the season. Maybe he steals a base. That's a 15-15 season, 75-75. Like, that's not bad for $7 million in today's game of baseball. The last couple of years in particular have been spotty. 3 of the last 4 years, his OPS has been slightly below the league average. So, the Braves signed him to a 5-year, $35 million contract. They got a ton of value out of that. There were a couple of really big seasons for him. He went 30-20 one year, scored 100 runs 3 times, drove in 100 runs a couple times. The last couple of seasons have been very average-ish. I'd be very surprised if the Braves don't bring him back. We'll see. We'll have to follow his offseason. He was terrible at the start. He really picked his game up, as we've talked about here on the show. And again, he was 1 steal away from going 15-15 and 1 RBI and run from 75-75. So he's a compiler. He's not a guy that on a per-game basis is going to do anything terrific. His batting average, his on-base percentage, his slugging percentage, the slash line, very moderate. But he did, yet again, what he's done frequently, and that is play a lot. Played 157 games. And he's an effective fantasy player. He should be another effective fantasy player next season, whether it's with the Braves or somebody else. I just wanted to kind of dispel the idea, because I've seen it again in multiple sources. Are the Braves going to pick this up? Maybe he doesn't want to be there. Maybe they don't want him there. Maybe. But this level of production for $7 million for a guy that's been with your organization for a decade, I don't know why they wouldn't pick that up. In fact, they might even extend him. Who knows? Christian Yelich had 3 walks yesterday, a couple of RBIs. He's gone 1 for 2. Yelich, if you got Yelich, you're playing Yelich. There's not much to talk about there. It's his first game as a leadoff hitter. So that's interesting to see. Will they keep him as a leadoff hitter down the stretch and into the playoffs? Kind of late in the year to be changing that up, but that's something that the Brewers are considering doing, I guess. Yelich, who turns 34 at the end of the year. I mean, let's give this guy some props. At one point in time, it's been a while, but in 2018, 2019, might have been the best player in fantasy baseball those 2 years. He went 30-20, hitting 326 one year. The following year, he went 40-30, hitting 329. He was fantastic. Then the back woes started to set in. He was absolutely horrendous during COVID. In 2021, he completely lost his home run stroke and basically became the guy he was when he was promoted to the big leagues at the start of his career. Then in 2022, he was wholly average. 2023, picked things up a little bit, stole 28 bases, which is the second most of his career, and he was effective there, but, the bat was still kind of slow. And last year played half the season. So this year his price was really depressed. And for those of you that took a chance that his back would stay healthy, and there were some moments where, he was out of the lineup. He played 145 games, or has played 145 games to date. He's 1 home run away from going 30-100. He's stolen 16 bases. He's scored 87 runs, and he's got an 800 OPS. The 87 runs scored is kind of light. It's lower than you would think it would be if he played 145 games. The 102 RBIs, second best of his career. So he's traded in some runs for some RBI production. But the bottom line is this is his best season since 2019. And we'll then revisit this in the offseason. Will the back hold up? He'll be a year older, all those kind of things. But if he hits a home run here down the stretch, he'll go 30-15. 100 RBIs, hell of a season for Christian Yelich. And again, batting leadoff yesterday. We'll see if that sticks here down the stretch. Now some pitching talk. And this is something that was hinted at in the article that I posted yesterday. It's something I already mentioned here on the show. This is the final week of the season, and with playoff seeding getting set, with teams falling out of the playoffs, with teams clinching playoff spots, teams looking ahead to setting playoff rotations, guys are going to get start skipped. They're going to get moved around this final week. Maybe guys make starts, but they only throw 65 pitches. Like it's a rough week with that stuff. What the Yankees are doing is the Yankees clinched the playoff berth. So they're going to kind of redo things here. Max Fried's going to start on Wednesday on regular rest. They're going to move Carlos Rodon up a day, and he's going to start Thursday for the Yankees. So obviously they're trying to set this rotation so that, game 1 of the playoffs will go to Fried. Game 2 will go to Rodon. Just a little bit of a, hey, kick the tires here. Take a look at what's going on. You're still starting Rodon. You're still starting Fried, all those kind of things. But just a little bit of a switch here with what the Yankees are doing. Now, this next one was really interesting. This one's Garrett Crochet. Garrett Crochet is going to start Wednesday against the Blue Jays as the Red Sox try to set their rotation as well. They're going to give Brian Bayo an extra day off, so they're going to move Crochet to Wednesday. Bayo's going to start Thursday. Interestingly, this obviously lines up Crochet to pitch game one of the wild card series, or pitch in relief on Sunday if they're desperate. Like if there's, they're down to, are they going to make the playoffs? They could always potentially use Crochet for some work on Sunday. Now, here's the interesting part with Crochet. When he's pitched on 4 days rest this season, his ERA is 3.9. Again, that's usable. It's fine. But when he's pitched on 5 days rest, his ERA is 2.3. Now, again, we're talking 18 starts here, 10 starts there. So, it's only 10 starts, but that's a run and a half difference. That seems rather significant. And that's something to keep in mind with a guy. Then I love this next comment here by Alex Gore, the manager. Quote, "We're at the point of the season where we need to do this, and we'll do it. We took care of him during the season, and he's going to take care of us the rest of the season," unquote. We've talked about this before, and I have mentioned many times how I've been surprised by this. They've taken care of Crochet this season. He's 2.2 innings away from going to 200 innings pitched. He's never thrown 150 before. They took care of him during the regular season. Top of the league, top 5 in the league in innings pitched and pitches thrown. Now we're talking about him being extended into the playoffs. So and remember this next year in 2026. Don't just look at a player's innings pitched during the regular season. Don't forget to factor in the playoff work too. So we'll talk a lot about this. Obviously, Crochet is going to be an SP1 next year. The question is, where does he go? What's our confidence level? Again, his next outing gets him to 200 innings this season, which is probably something he and the team want to do too at this point. But then we're adding in playoffs and, never thrown 150 innings before. He's going to go 220 this year. But yeah, I just found that comment interesting from Alex Gore, the manager. Nick Pivetta had 5 strikeouts over 5 2/3 innings, gave up 3 runs against the Brewers on Monday. So effort. He has been fantastic. Threw 112 pitches, which is a really high number for 5 2/3 innings. Only half of them for strikes, so obviously he was struggling a little bit. But his ERA is now 2.9, and he, again, has been terrific. He could start Sunday for the Padres against the Diamondbacks. Is he going to make that move? Is he going to be removed from the rotation for that final start? Possibly. So hopefully you have the ability to be nimble if you're still playing. And you can make use of the waiver wire on a daily basis. You're fine. Hopefully you thought about this as you were setting your lineups this week. I did in my leagues. It's like, well, what are the odds this guy makes a start? And maybe the guy doesn't make the start and you're wrong. But, maybe the guy makes a start and you're wrong. Excuse me. But it's better just to have the innings right. So keep an eye on these things here. We don't know at this point. Could pitch Sunday, Pivetta, much like Garrett Crochet, but he's not guaranteed to make a start against the Diamondbacks on Sunday. Michael McGreevy, and this is somebody we've talked about on the show and in Discord a lot. McGreevy is going to face the Cubs in the finale if he makes that start. We're expecting McGreevy to make that start. He got the win last night, even though he gave up 5 runs in 5 innings against the Giants. The Giants gave us all hope, us Giants fans, gave us all hope that they were going to make the playoffs here, and then they just went in the absolute toilet here the last 2 weeks. So it doesn't look like there's any chance of that happening. But McGreevy got a victory last night. And, McGreevy he's no longer. He was a top 10 prospect for this team, but there was a lot of excitement about him in the fantasy space. Not really sure why. His ERA is now 4.4. His whip is 1.23. 14.5% K rate is brutally bad. We're talking, Kyle Hendricks zone. And for the most part, he's been effective this year. But when you make a comp, and this is a legitimate comp based upon what we've seen so far, of Kyle Hendricks, like the 47% ground ball rate, he's been pretty stable, giving innings on a per start basis here. But so McGreevy, 5th starter in the big leagues, spot starter in mixed leagues. That's how I look at him. He just doesn't miss bats. And the ratios this year were very average for a guy that didn't pitch poorly at all in his rookie season. MacKenzie, Gore gave up 4 runs over 2 innings Monday and lost to the Braves. He is set to face the White Sox on Sunday. We shall see how things go with MacKenzie Gore. Now, MacKenzie Gore at one point in time this season was killing it. He was having an absolutely phenomenal season. In the end, the numbers, the whip is career best. So that's something. It's 135. It's not very good. Strikeout rate of 27%, career best. That's really good. That's 185 strikeouts in 159 innings. So that's really good. Unfortunately, his team isn't any good. So he went 5-15. His ERA is up to 4.2. And I think that I would consider this basically a repeat of last season. I can't consider it a win. I think it would have been a win if he had taken the 166 innings to 186 innings. Even if he makes that final start next week, he's probably going to fall just short of his innings pitch total last year. Gore is 26 years old. He was at one period of time the number one left-handed pitching prospect, I think, in baseball. We've talked about it a lot. This is back when he was with the Padres. Things have not come together as anticipated. But we are looking at a guy who's basically thrown 160 innings each of the last 2 years, a guy that's thrown 180 innings of 180 strikeouts each of the last 2 years. There still easily could be another step here. He is somebody that not going to be overly costly next year. And I think there are reasons to think and hope and believe that maybe he takes that next step next year. So we'll dive way into this in the offseason and look into it further. Basically a repeat of 2024 for Gore, and that is a little bit disappointing because we were hoping for him to take a step, and honestly, he just didn't. Remember, go to fantasyguru.com. I think it's still available. Send a note to support at fantasyguru.com. Say you heard about it here on the show. They'll probably honor it. The deal was supposed to have ended yesterday, but maybe it's still good here on a Tuesday. Buy DFS football, get wagering football for free. By wagering football, get DFS football for free. And that's big. Okay? That's weeks 4 through 18. Okay? You get both of those for the price of one, and you get almost the entire season. Okay? DFS, get in there, get the core four, find out how to build lineups where you're playing GVP or cash games. The betting, we have Tyler Beaker, who always shares one bet here on Thursdays. Tyler Beaker and the crew. And you heard Tyler last week talk about this. Since he's come to fantasyguru.com, he's never had a losing football season in betting. So hopefully you'll join us. Buy two, get one free right now. The BOGO sale, DFS, and wagering football for the price of one. Okay, let's talk a little bit of football here. We'll go visit with Armando Marsal in about 10 minutes, and we'll look at broad picture things with Armando looking at the running back position. But I wanted to spend some time, and don't worry, on Thursday and Friday we'll be a little heavier in baseball. There was no game action yesterday, right? So not a hell of a lot to talk about with baseball, but we'll go back to being a little heavier in baseball later in the week, Thursday, Friday. I'm not here on Wednesdays. For those of you that don't know, I know most of you are here every day. But for those of you that don't know, I'm here Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. On Wednesdays, I'm with Jeff Manns on the Elite Sports Show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. That's Monday through Friday from 2 to 5. And Wednesdays, I'm with Jeff from 2 to 5. All right, let's talk some Monday Night Football. Big game here. Obviously, a huge game. 38-30 Lions defeat the Ravens. Great fantasy game. Back and forth, 68 points, all this kind of excitement. Let's start out on the Lions side of things. You know, you scored 38 points and your quarterback goes for 202-1. It's kind of disappointing if you got Amon-Ra St. Brown or any of these receivers. Though Amon-Ra St. Brown went 777-1. So he really wasn't disappointing. He was fantastic anyway. So it worked out okay. Jameson Williams, 2 for 43. He's a hit or miss option either. Sam LaPorta, we'll talk about him in a few minutes. Let's talk backfield first. Wow. Gibbs, 2 rushing touchdowns, 22 carries, also had 5 catches. So that's 27 touches and 2 touchdowns for Jahmyr Gibbs. David Montgomery, 2 rushing touchdowns, 151 rushing yards. He doubled the rushing total of Gibbs. He had a 72-yard run there. Both backs get 2 touchdowns. Montgomery, 2 touchdowns. Interesting thing here. Montgomery's game was huge. But remember a couple of things. Number one, Diggs had 27 touches to 13 for Montgomery. That's doubling. That's a huge, significant difference. Secondly, the snap rate that Montgomery played last night was a 3-game low this year. So despite the numbers being fantastic for David Montgomery, half as many touches as Gibbs and a season low snap rate. So we're not worried about David Montgomery. We're not panicked about David Montgomery, but it is fair to suggest A, he's not running for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns ever again this season. And secondly, it's fair to point out that, again, his usage was way down last night. So if you've got David Montgomery and your expectations are flex option moving forward, you're fine. If your expectations are higher than that, or someone in your league has expectations higher than that, maybe you consider trading David Montgomery, because I don't know if Gibbs can hold up for 25 touches a week, right? But we talked about this in the offseason. New OC, new plan on offense. Fair to think that Gibbs was going to get more work than he did the last couple of seasons. We saw that in spades last night. So keep that in mind if you're a David Montgomery owner. Great effort, have as many touches, and a season-low snap count in the backfield. Sam LaPorta. We'll talk more about LaPorta with Armando Marsal in a few minutes. I want to get his take on this situation. Sam LaPorta, 4 targets, 4 catches, 33 yards. And, you know, this is a really interesting call because Jeff Mans and the crew over at fantasyguru.com nailed this. LaPorta had that historic rookie season. We called for a pullback in year 2. There was a pullback in year 2. Heading into this season, we were like, well, you know, he's obviously a top 6 tight end. I mean, look at the universe of tight ends. But the change at OC makes this a muddled, less than exciting situation. And we're seeing it play out exactly that way. So LaPorta kind of, you know, he's usable. We're not dropping Sam LaPorta. You're not going to go to the waiver wire and make a move that's going to improve your team over Sam LaPorta. But, you know, the idea that what we saw with the rookie season, especially in the touchdown column, is going to be what we see the rest of the way this season. It's something that we need to move on from. On the other side of things, and I was jokingly talking to Phil Backert over at fantasyguru.com this morning, told a lot of people not to drop Mark Andrews. I said, I'm holding Mark Andrews. I have Mark Andrews on multiple teams. I'm giving him at least one more week before I make a move. And Mark Andrews goes out last night and goes nuts. 6 catches, 91 yards, 2 scores. Fantastic league-winning week effort there by Mark Andrews. It's early. You know, it's 9:30 on the West Coast. I looked in Discord. I didn't receive one thank you from anybody at fantasyguru.com. My assumption is that's because no one listened to my advice and everyone dropped Mark Andrews. Did someone drop Mark Andrews in your league before last night? Were you able to add Mark Andrews before last night because someone did drop him? This Ravens passing attack, Lamar Jackson has been fantastic as a passer. But this passing attack is a disaster. 1 week it's Flowers, 1 week it's Andrews. This week it was Andrews, and Flowers caught 2 balls for 13 yards. Right? We've got a situation where I've been asked multiple questions in Discord over at fantasyguru.com. Multiple questions about adding Tez Walker, about adding DeAndre Hopkins, and some of the questions, well, I'm in a 14-team league. And I said no. And you see it last night. Walker, 1 catch. Hopkins, 1 catch. Wallace, 1 target. Like, we got to be very clear about this. And this is something I wanted to talk about before we visit with Armando Marsal. Make sure that you don't just look at box scores. I even said this last week when we talked about DeAndre Hopkins, who scored a touchdown. Then he almost had a second touchdown. He was like right at the line, goal line and whatever. And I said he played like 10 snaps. Same thing with Walker. Walker's got like 4 catches in his career, like 3 touchdowns. These guys are playing 10, 15 snaps. They're not seeing 10 or 15 targets. They're not even running 10 or 15 routes. They're playing 10 or 15 snaps. Why is anybody adding Hopkins? Why is anybody adding Walker in any league? They're not on the field. And we saw that again last night. Rashad Bateman had 5 catches for 63 yards and a touchdown. He's not getting a lot of targets, and he's not on the field that much. So the Ravens are continuing this trend that we talked about late in the week last week of teams scoring tons of points, having tons of offensive success. But really, it's week to week. Yeah. Derrick Henry scored a touchdown last night and another fumble. And, you know, the game flow and everything, you know, caused what I'm about to say. But last night, Derrick Henry played 1 less snap than Justice Hill. So the Ravens are killing it offensively. Lamar Jackson's stupendous. And it's kind of hit or miss for everyone else. Even Derrick Henry, 12 carries last night and another fumble. Very interesting what the Ravens are doing. And it's been frustrating from a fantasy perspective because it is very difficult to get a gauge. Back to my main point, make sure that you look beyond the box score. You at least look, and I write about this every week in my column that comes out on Thursdays, my review, my weekly matchup piece. I write about all the players' snap counts. I write about all the players' routes run. Make sure you check that out. Sometimes the guy will come in, he'll catch 4 passes for 37 yards and a touchdown. You'll get excited, and then you realize that guy only ran 8 routes all game. He wasn't part of the offense. He just had a couple of nice catches, and maybe there was a drive or something. Maybe there was a blown coverage. Make sure you're looking at the usage and the time on the field because those things do matter. All right, so that's kind of a review of where we're at with Monday Night Football. Remember, tomorrow Justin Fensterman will be here on the show. Rich Miletto will join him. I'll be back on Thursday. I'll be joined by Tyler Beaker. I'll do baseball the first half of the show. Tyler and I will do football the second half of the show. Every Friday, I'll do baseball the first half of the show, and then Russell Clay will do football the second half of the show. Obviously, after this week, let's think about this. Next Tuesday, I'll probably do a review of baseball. Not positive on that, but I'll probably do a review of baseball. But obviously, starting next week, we're going to go hardcore football with the baseball season ended. But like I promised all of you, we're not going to give up on baseball while it's still going on. So until the regular season is over, we're covering it at fantasyguru.com and here on the show. I see a bunch of questions coming in here, which is good news. We'll address those in a few minutes. Want everyone to know that our next guest is Armando Marsal. We'll talk with him. We'll get his advice and thoughts on these trade questions and ads and all this stuff that I see in the chat room as well. Armando joins us every Tuesday at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. Remember, go to fantasyguru.com, click that Elite Plus tab right at the top of the page in the toolbar. You can find this show, Fantasy Sports Daily, and all the old episodes. You can find Armando's show, which is a podcast. It's called Mind of Marsal. You can find him here with us every Tuesday. He's often on the live stream on Tuesday nights. He's often on, well, he's not often on. He's on the live stream on Friday nights, I think, sometimes talking DFS. I know he's on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio all the time. I heard him talking to Bob Harris the other day. I know he goes on with our guys, Justin and Russ. They're on from 6 to 9 Eastern on Sunday nights on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. So he's basically all over the place, but he's with us every Tuesday. So it's Armando Marsal of fantasyguru.com. How you doing, Armando?
I'm doing good, Ray. How about yourself?
Doing all right. I used to think I was the busiest guy, and I still think I'm pretty busy. But yeah, I heard you on the Diehards the other night, and I was like, wait, I know that voice. Going out with the dog and everything. So how's it going for you? You're pretty busy, kind of hitting up all the avenues.
Yeah, it's a busy time of year, but I still give you that. You know, you are the king of busyness there. I'm not gonna lie to you. Ray, I think you've had one vacation the last 5 years or so. Like Ray is the busiest man I know. But yeah, on getting chances and opportunities there on SiriusXM, having fun talking sports. I go on to cut you. I've been on twice already. You mentioned it with Justin Fensterman and Russell Clay. That's always a blast. Usually 8:30 on Sundays. But yeah, man. And Fridays sometimes I am. This past week I was with Tyler, and every Sunday 12 p.m. Eastern. We went from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern. We made that move. Chris Rose and myself every Sunday morning talking DFS. I am still in Discord as well at the same time, so I am multitasking on Sunday mornings there.
Yeah, I forgot the Sunday morning one. Sorry about that. So thank you for mentioning that. I thought I had everything else, but I left one.
No, that was good. That was good.
I tried. Armando Marsal of fantasyguru.com. Before we dive, I thought we'd talk a lot about the running back position with you today because there's a lot going on. But before we get to that, I wanted to talk to you about the 2 tight ends that I just mentioned in my quick review of Monday Night Football. Let's start out with Sam LaPorta. 4 catches for 33 yards, very standard fare for a tight end. People that have Sam LaPorta expecting more than that. They see the Lions score 38 points. They go to check the box score. They're probably disappointed in that. Is that Sam LaPorta this year? I mean, he's a top 10 tight end. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. But is there a return to the rookie season production happening from him this season?
I don't see a consistent weekly, I don't see consistent weekly production from LaPorta. I think there are going to be big weeks. We've kind of seen it, already. Like if you look at his games, he's had, one game of over 12 fantasy points, and his other games have been between that 6 and 7 fantasy point range, kind of, that floor, PPR floor for the tight end position outside of the elite guys, right? So like that's kind of what you're getting with him. There are just too many mouths to feed, right? In Detroit, when you look at it, they have 2 reliable running backs. We saw David Montgomery go bonkers last night. Like he looked like David Montgomery of his prime. They have Jameson Williams. They obviously have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, there's only one football, and I think we tend to forget this. Jared Goff is not going to pass it 50 times every game, 45, 46 times every game. There's going to be weeks where he's passing it 30 times. So a 20% target share of that is what, 4 to 5 targets in some of these instances. That might be what you're going to get from him consistently. Is there going to be peak weeks? Absolutely. Is he going to give you 100 yards and a touchdown multiple times this season? Probably. Right. But is it going to happen consistently every week? Is he going to give you that, high end production that someone like Bowers or McBride is giving you? No, because the reason is that there are just so many mouths to feed in Detroit versus these other players that are the primary targets in their offenses. So big difference here between someone like Sam LaPorta and these elite guys. But yeah, I agree with you. I'm not going and dropping him now to pick someone up on waivers to swap the same kind of production. Right. I don't want to do that.
Dropping somebody on the other side of things. Mark Andrews. I jokingly said, right before he came on, I told a lot of people, I'm not dropping Mark Andrews. I'm giving him at least one more week before he goes out and scores 2 touchdowns, has 6 catches, 91 yards. I haven't gotten a single thank you. So I'm assuming everyone dismissed my advice and dropped Mark Andrews. And now they're all pissed off because he went for 2 touchdowns last night. This is the tight end position, right? Like, I mean, you said it yourself. There's only a couple of tight ends that you can legitimately look at and think they're getting 8 targets every week. The rest of the field is kind of muddled, and you can't be. And this is a perfect example of it. If you dropped Andrews, you missed a gazillion points. That's a league-winning effort last night. I mean, it's 25 points or whatever the hell it was. You got to grab your guy and stick with it instead of trying to play matchups, right?
Ray, speaking of one thing, I am going to give a little plug to our DFS betting. If you are part of our DFS betting, we had Mark Andrews anytime touchdown yesterday. We discussed it there that in the Discord. We recommended that one. So hopefully you were on it. Look, I agree with you 100%, right? I said this when I was asked about Mark Andrews, and I said, I kind of gave a little lengthy response. And if I drafted Mark Andrews this year, it was with the understanding that it's going to be very touchdown dependent with him, right? He's not going to give me that consistent floor. I'm going to take on the variance. I'm going to take on the weekly volatility. And if you were paying attention, right, going into yesterday's game, he accounted for 40% of the red zone targets. He had been on the field for 100% of the snaps inside the 20-yard line throughout the first 2 weeks of the season. So he was where he needed to be, right? And if you drafted him, that's what you want to see. Touchdowns are high variance. Like, they're not predictable. They're just variance, right? So if you would have stuck to what you drafted, you would have got your return on investment right there. And this is who Mark Andrews is going to be. He's not going to be a 30% target share player anymore. He's not going to be that. He's going to be someone that you need touchdowns from. And if you drafted him, I think you drafted him with that understanding. And I don't think this changes anything. He's still very volatile on a week-to-week basis. Isaiah Likely is set to return very soon, so he's going to be in the mix for targets. But there are going to be 2 touchdown weeks, and there's also going to be just single touchdown weeks for Mark Andrews, and that's why you drafted him.
Marsal, fantasyguru.com, with us every Tuesday at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. Let's switch things over to the running back position. This is really interesting to me. Cam Skattebo, obviously, is taking over the backfield. We got a report that the shoulder injury for Tracy is going to cost him 2 to 4 weeks. Interestingly, and I mentioned this earlier in the week, Tracy was the lead back this week before he got hurt. Everyone thought it was going to be Skattebo. That game started, it was all Tracy. So I don't know what they were planning, but the plan now has to be Skattebo leading the way. I've seen some fantasy sources say that Skattebo is a running back 1 because of his pass catching, that there's league-winning potential here. In the Giants offense, I'm not saying Skattebo's not usable, sure. But where is he for you the rest of the way here? Sounds like a lot of people think Skattebo's touching it 20 times a week and scoring 20 points a week, and I just don't see that with that Giants offense.
Yeah, I would temper expectations as far as RB1 talk is concerned. Right? Like, is he going to be a top 12 running back every week? I don't think so. I think that he's, like you said, he's now a viable option as your RB2, as a flex play, really depending on your situation. But I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I'm going to start Skattebo over Breece Hall now just because, he's going to be the featured back in the Giants and Breece Hall has had a couple of bad games. Like, am I going out there and getting him on waivers? Absolutely. Because even if you're not using him or even if you're not, he's a good depth piece on your bench. So for me, I do view him as an RB2. A top 24, top 30 running back here, depending on matchup. And I do think he's going to get upwards of 15 opportunities per game here in this backfield. But I don't necessarily think that that's going to, can be consistent elite production just because he's getting the opportunities. I did like what I saw from him, and I like the fact that he's able to catch passes to the backfield. And it's a cool story. But I'm not going here and saying I've seen some trades like, oh, I'm giving up like a wide receiver 1 for Skattebo. Like I'm not going that far just yet with this.
Another situation, this one obviously a more significant injury. James Conner hurts his ankle. The season's over. Career might be at this point. We just don't know. Trey Benson. Now I've said this before the season began, right? I'm a handcuff guy. In the one league I drafted James Conner, I drafted Trey Benson, so I'm fine there. I said to people, look, if you're going to be, hunting, right, you're going to be just grabbing random running backs. Benson was one of the 3 guys I said to grab because it's like, look, if Conner goes down, to me, Benson's touching it 18 times a week and it's off to the races. Well, Conner went down. So where are we at with Benson the rest of the way? And if in the shallow league you have the opportunity to add Benson or Skattebo, which guy do you grab?
For me, this is a no-brainer. Ray, I was very big on Trey Benson going into the season because I expected his role to get larger this year. Even with Conner as the featured back, I expected some form of committee. We kind of started seeing that early on in the season where Benson was more involved than initially expected. And now, in my opinion, like everyone's talking about Skattebo being a RB1. No, I think Trey Benson could be an RB1 going the rest of the way. Like we really like James Conner. This is a good system, good offense, good situation here. Benson's going to get the majority of the opportunities. He's going to actually get all of the workload that he can handle here in this backfield. He's a dual threat running back, very explosive. We've really seen, his explosive runs this season. And for me, he's the one I'm prioritizing. If you've been saving all of your fab budget, right? Like what we've been talking about, this is the week to go out and spend big if Benson is out, like, because he is a difference maker. He is a game changer. He's someone that, in my opinion, can win you your leagues here moving forward. I've seen a lot of trades in our Discord too. Like if you've been holding Benson for this long, there's really no reason to be trading him away now. Like there is absolutely no reason. You could be deep at running back. That's fine. Maybe trade someone else. But Benson is, in my opinion, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you don't see it the same way. But if I'm holding Benson this long, there's no way I'm trading him right now unless I'm getting incredible returns. And I view him, and someone asked me, what do you view him? I'm like a very high-end RB2 with RB1 upside. Like that's where I'm at. And I do think that he could be a top 12 running back moving forward. So I'm 100% all in on Trey Benson. He was someone I was very, aggressive on in my fantasy drafts this season. And right now I'm expecting my expectations for him are very high going forward here, Ray.
Yeah, I find it's always interesting to me. I've seen, because I've in Discord, I haven't posted. I was looking at some questions this morning before the show started, and I'm seeing the same thing. It's like, I got Benson, I'm going to trade him. Why? Like, why are we now trading him? Now, if someone's going to give you Breece Hall, DK Metcalf, they're going to overpay. Fine. But I mean, this is why this is the game everyone plays, which is the wrong game to play, which is to grab the random running back and hope something good happens. This is it, and it's not week 13. It's week 4. Like you've won. You hit the lottery. Don't trade that away. Anyway, I agree with you on that. Armando Marsal of fantasyguru.com. We got another situation here. The Chargers lose Najee Harris. Obviously, Achilles injury, terrible. Who knows what his career is going to happen, the non-contact injury, all that. Omarion Hampton didn't do anything great last week, but he had 20-plus touches. He's catching passes. It's the only game in town now. Hassan Haskins, Kamani Vidal. Okay. So whether they want to or not, it's his backfield now. This is always likely to happen at some point. Maybe it happens earlier with Omarion Hampton. Who is Omarion Hampton moving forward? You're going to tell me he's going to be a weekly starter. I get that. I agree. How high are we looking at him? And how concerned are you thus far that through 3 games, the Chargers are throwing the ball way more than they're running the ball, which is not what we expected? Yeah,
I've been very, I don't want to say surprised, right? But it has been surprising watching the pass of the frequency they're passing But they are using their strength, and they have a lot of receivers here. Like Keenan Allen is healthy right now, right? So he's playing really well. It looks like vintage Keenan Allen. You have Quinton Johnson actually making some catches, Lad McConkey. So you have a pretty good receiving group. And they were using Harris as well here. But without Harris, I do think, like you saw it last week, right? 24 opportunities for Hampton. Very involved in the passing game. It was 7 targets here that he had. I think a capable pass catcher. I think the fact that he's capable of catch passes like this out of the backfield, I think that's going to increase his weekly floor here. I do think they're going to get him involved as a pass catcher. I expect him to be attempting here anywhere between 14 and 16, 17 runs on a weekly basis. I think that's his weekly floor moving forward with, a handful of targets on occasion. So I do think he's going to get upwards of about 17 opportunities on a weekly basis. That's the role I'm expecting from him. And I'm viewing him. So I'm going to view him as a very good RB2 right now that has that potential to creep up with the RB1, the top 12 running backs. I do think that that's what he's capable of. If you ask me, the Chargers are probably, they're playing some of the best football right now. Like I look at, after 3 weeks, and you can make a strong case that they're the best team in football right now, right? They're playing really good football. I think he's going to benefit from this. I think that this offense is going to go back to running the football, but right now they're playing to their strength, which is passing and using Herbert, who's their best player on offense.
Armando Marsal of fantasyguru.com. Armando, let's talk a little bit about the situation with the New England Patriots. What a mess. Drake May's playing pretty well, even though there is zero consistency on who's catching passes. So May is usable. All these pass catchers. Last week it was, Henry running wide open across the field. The running back situation, they drafted Trevion Henderson. Everyone expected Henderson at some point to take over this backfield. For some reason, they keep trying to stuff Ramondre Stevenson in there. And he had 2 more fumbles the other day. Antonio Gibson, he had a fumble the other day. Is it fine? I know it's been 3 games. But is it finally time for Trevion Henderson to take this backfield over? Because, we know that there's 2 things you can't do as a running back. 1, miss a blitz pickup and get your quarterback destroyed. And 2, put the ball on the turf. 3 fumbles from the 2 guys that are running in this backfield next to him. Is it Henderson to the moon, or is there still concern that, they just can't figure out this backfield right now?
I think this is great for Henderson, right? Because I do think that this is going to open up some opportunities here for him. I don't think necessarily it's that this means that he's going to get the keys to the backfield right away in week 4. But I do think that they're going to give him more opportunities. And I think once they start giving him more opportunities, Ray, I think this is where that role is going to increase, because without question in my mind, and I think everyone that has watched him play and watched this backfield, he is the best running back, the more dynamic running back in this backfield at the end of the day. Stevenson had his moments. It was against Miami. But for me, I think it's going to be Henderson. I think this will create some extra opportunities this upcoming week. And I think as he continues to get those opportunities, he's going to be that guy. We look at it right now, I know it's been lopsided, right? But he has 30 opportunities. Stevenson has 33. So it's not like he's that far back. It's just the opportunities have come in bits and pieces with him and not consistent. I think that's the issue with Henderson. But I do think he's going to overtake Stevenson here. And I think that these struggles lately with Stevenson with the fumbling and the fact that Antonio Gibson also fumbled, I think this is a really strong case to give Henderson more of those opportunities here this upcoming week.
Armando Marsal of fantasyguru.com. The Bengals got boat raced by the Vikings. They got destroyed. Jake Browning's first start, just absolutely horrendous. And, Chase Brown, 10 carries, 3 yards is sickeningly bad. Problem for Chase Brown is he hadn't done anything. And I was joking about this on Monday, and I was pretty close to the numbers when I pulled them up to verify it. Chase Brown has got 47 carries for 93 yards. That's 2 yards a carry. He's averaging 18 touches a week, which is what you drafted him for. He's still involved in the passing attack, okay. But Armando, this is pathetic on the ground. And again, we can't blame a running back. There's a lot more that goes into it. It's very rare that it's solely the running back's fault, right? It's usually the blocking, the scheme, the game flow, all these kind of things. But where are we at with Chase Brown? Because again, the volume, 18 touches a week, that's gold, man. We'll take that. But there is no productivity, and 10 carries for 3 yards is scary bad.
Yeah, it's scary bad. And when you look at some of the matchups in the upcoming weeks, it's scarier worse. Before being honest, and the problem is, look, they don't have the offensive line is an issue. It's a big mess. They can now stack the box because Joe Burrow is now under center, and as much as we like Browning and we like the passing volume like that, he's not a threat to carve you up. I think defenses know that. I think there's going to be continuous issues running the football for Brown. I don't see that really changing. I think where he's going to return value here is if he gets a little bit more involved in the passing game. We saw it last game where he had 5 targets. He had 3 targets in each of his first 2 games. If he can continue to get anywhere between 4 and 6 targets with more on a weekly basis, I think he's going to be able to return some value. I look at him as a volume player, but not one that's going to be very productive with that volume. So if you drafted him, unfortunately, you can't sell him now because you're going to be selling him, at cents to the dollar. So you're not really going to get much of a haul for him. So it's a matter of, do you want to continue rolling him out, or do you want to, kind of bench him and replace put someone else in the line? For instance, if Trey Benson is out there, for me, this is a pretty easy swap. You go out there, you bid as much as you can on Benson, and this is you put Benson in your starting lineup, and you could bench Brown. You're going to see weeks where he goes off on that bench, but he's going to be far more inconsistent than we initially thought going into the season.
Marsal, fantasyguru.com. Let's go to the Browns situation. Dylan Sampson, week 1, 20 touches. Week 2, 7 touches. Week 3, 4 snaps. Life comes at you fast, as the kids say. Jerome Ford is the number 2 running back here. He was the number 2. Yeah, he's number 2 back. Judkins obviously is ascending. There is still a chance. I don't know. It might be small. There's still a chance that Judkins could end up being suspended at some point because of the off-the-field stuff. Maybe not. Judkins obviously is the lead guy here. I saw a question this morning. Judkins is still on waiver wires in some leagues, which good luck with that bid. It's going to cost you half your salary to get him at this point. Who is Judkins? Because we got a lot going on here, right? We've got Joe Flacco kind of bottoming out. We know they're going to have one or both of these youngsters take snaps under center at some point. Jerry Jeudy's vanished from the offense. Fannin had a down week last week. Tillman, Bond is starting to ascend. This offense is kind of messy. Judkins seems like the guy we want. He is the guy we want. What's it going to look like at the end of the season?
Yeah, so in the recap article that I posted overnight on Sunday, I wrote about Judkins, and towards the end of that, obviously he's taking over this backfield, and it was kind of they let us know that the week before last that they were going to do when he played 19 snaps and he had 13 opportunities. He's going to be our guy. He played 36 of the 66 snaps this weekend. Obviously, he dominated the opportunities of the backfield. And I think he's going to continue to dominate the back. He's their clear-cut back, and I'm viewing him as an RB2 / flex option because of what you said, right? The short-term outlook, yes, but then as things start changing and evolving in this offense, how bad is this offense going to look with the youngsters? Or if you're optimistic about Sanders or Gabriel, sure. But for me, I'm not that optimistic when it comes to these two, Ray. So I think that the offense is going to get a little bit worse. I'm not going to overpay for Judkins. I'm not, unless you're in absolute need of a running back right here. So if you weren't on him before and you couldn't get him before the big week, I wouldn't go out there and overpay. I still prefer going and prioritizing Benson or even Skattebo to a certain extent because I view them kind of in that same range. So, RB2 / flex option moving forward in what he's going to be the featured back and what I expect to be a bad offense the rest of the season here.
Armando, when we go over to the Saints, we've got Alvin Kamara, who's averaging just about 20 touches a game, which, hell yeah, right? Then you look at this, and you've got a quarterback who can't complete a pass more than, we jokingly, 25 feet, right? He's throwing the ball 39 times a game. Fantastic. Alvin Kamara is averaging 3 catches a game. And I jokingly said this earlier in the week, Juwan Johnson has become Kamara, and Kamara's become Juwan Johnson in this offense. It's really weird that Rattler throws the ball so much, and he throws the ball so much at the line of scrimmage, and he's not really utilizing. There's 2 games here with Kamara's getting 2 targets. Where we have Kamara, because, on the ground, he's fine, but he's not running 90 yards a week on the ground. We need him desperately to be involved. Where is he moving forward? And how odd is it to you that with Rattler's game, Kamara isn't more involved as a pass catcher to this point?
Yeah, I've been very surprised with his involvement in the pass game. You mentioned it, not a ton of receptions. He's actually had only two. He's had 10 targets on the season and only one game with more than 2 targets. So he's had 2 targets, 6 targets, 2 targets. Like if you drafted Kamara, that's not why you're drafting him. You drafted Kamara because you expected upwards of 5 targets per game. That's always been where his mostly of his fantasy production comes in, into play. I am very surprised. I think it's here to stay. If it's not here to stay, then we're going to see a massive regression with Juwan Johnson. Like that's what's going to happen. Like it's either going to be Juwan Johnson or Alvin Kamara, and it looks like they're very comfortable with kind of unleashing Johnson here. I look, he's a top 24 running back right now in PPR formats. I'm not eager to put him in my starting lineup each and every week. I think that floor is very low. We saw that this week. And unless he begins to see more volume in the passing game, I just don't know if I want to start Kamara because, like you mentioned, he's not someone that's going to get you 100 rushing yards or a ton of rushing yards each and every week. He has done a pretty good job against Arizona and San Francisco, averaging over 4 yards per carry. But last week, 2.3 yards per carry. That is a concern for me. RB2/flex option, but for me, not overly exciting. I will say, Kendre Miller. Feel like if you're in deep leagues and things like that, like someone you can stash, right? Because you could see some change in roles here at some point, once the season is kind of over for the Saints.
Well, Kamara's not playing 17 games at 20 touches a game. It's not happening. So that's very good advice there. Armando Marsal of fantasyguru.com. One more situation to talk about. 10 PPR points in week 1, 9 PPR points in week 2, 14 PPR points in week 3. So we're looking at, 12 points a week. At the running back spot, that's okay. That's a flex kind of player. Tony Pollard, though, has had 19, 20, and 18 touches. So he's averaging 19 touches a week. Just like Chase Brown, you average 19 touches a week, you're in the starting lineup. Like that's just, you're in there. The production hasn't been there. The offense with the Titans has been bad. The offensive line has not been good. Cam Ward, a rookie quarterback, has been a rookie quarterback, right? Where are we at with Tony Pollard? Because this, it looked like he had an opportunity to really do some things early in the year with Tajay Spears being down. And again, he's getting all the work, but his team just isn't helping him, and it's just not leading to much production.
Yeah, this is just one of those situations where as a fantasy manager, you got to continue to roll with the punches here because he is getting the opportunity. You mentioned it. He had 19 opportunities, 21 opportunities, 20 opportunities. So he's had at least 20 opportunities in all but one game. That's here to stay. I would like to see him a little bit more involved in the passing game. He has just multiple targets in only one game, which is last week. He had 4 targets. Other than that, he's had 1 target in each of his first 2 games. And I would like to see him a little bit more involved there to kind of give him that a different look. But I'm going to continue to roll with the punches here. Like I'm just tempering expectations with these running backs because I'm also understanding the situation when you have an aerial attack that's not a major threat. You're going to see more stacked boxes. You're going to see defenses, playing the run a little bit more than they're playing the pass because there's not a major threat. We're going to have to see Cam Ward develop here a little bit more and really become a threat to kind of ease that run game. But right now, that's not been the case. You mentioned that he hasn't looked great. Like he's had some moments, but he hasn't looked great. He's being a rookie, understandable. But unfortunately, like I'm not going to bench someone that's getting 20 opportunities for someone that's getting 10 to 12 opportunities simply because that player that's 10 to 12 opportunities has been a little bit more productive with his opportunities. Like so, I'll continue to roll with the punches here, Ray.
You don't start Blake Corum over him because he had
exactly right. Like we're not doing that. Yeah. Like we're not doing that.
See how angry he got there? That's as angry as Armando Marsal gets. So don't do that.
Because I'm sure you're gonna have 2 in scored last week. Should I start 2 in over Tony Pollard? Is getting 20 opportunities. Like no, you need a touchdown from 2 in for that to work out, right?
Yeah, and I said earlier, follow the snap counts, follow the participation numbers. Like don't focus just on the number in the PPR column or the half point. Look at the rest of it. That's Armando basically saying the same thing I did. Armando Marsal of fantasyguru.com. Let's go to the chat here and some questions. Armando, Justin K's got a question. He said hello to me, but this is before you were joining, so I'm sure he'd say hi to you too. He's got a trade. He'd be getting Breece Hall and Ricky Pierce, I almost said his name wrong, and giving up Garrett Wilson. This is an interesting one because Garrett Wilson obviously is better than Ricky Pearsall. The Niners are all kinds of beat up. Now they just like Nick Bosa for the season, the star defensive end. Pearsall, obviously coming off a big game last week, 8 catches, I think it was 117 yards. Usable piece each week. You mentioned Breece Hall earlier in the week. His performance to date has been below expectations, but he's still a weekly starter. Garrett Wilson, let's say he's the best player in this group, but we're getting at least a wide receiver 3 and at least a wide receiver 2. We've got to drop Najee Harris, so we're not losing any usable assets here. What do you think of this call for Justin? He also lists his backfield here and his wide receivers.
Yeah, so with this kind of roster, this is not a trade I think that needs to be made, right? Because Breece Hall is going to come in here and you're going to be able to start them, but you still have 3 quality, starting running backs when you're looking at volume, right? Walker right now, someone scored multiple touchdowns this past week, and someone has now scored in back-to-back games. We had that expectation for him. The same with Swift is another one we've had expectations for. He's, highly involved in his offense as well. Pollard, we just talked about, hasn't been productive, but 20 opportunities per game. That's a good number there. Then you look at Sutton, Debo, Devontae Smith. You put Pierce on there. Like, that's not getting a major upgrade at the wide receiver position. I think that's the weakest, part of this roster when you're kind of looking at things. So giving up Wilson here, I think it is weakening your receiving group a little bit. So that's why I'm inclined to staying put. So that's the thought process behind that. But it is a good offer here. I agree. I think it is a very good offer. And if you were hurting, at running back, I think this is an offer I definitely take. But I don't see you hurting at the position. So I'm leaning towards staying put here.
And Justin, good job. This is what everyone needs to do, whether you're on the show or in Discord. Yes. Justin did a great job listing his running backs and wide receivers. All the time, we'll just get the random question. Hey, what do you think about this? And it's like, I need more detail. You heard why you need more detail. Armando broke it down because of the detail. So good work there, Justin. Aaron's got a question. He's in a shallow league. He picked up LaPorta. He also has Kelsey. So now he's got 2 tight ends. You and I are both not huge fans of 2 tight ends. We're definitely not big fans of tight end 6 and tight end 7, because how are you going to start those guys on each week? So the question Aaron has is, do I drop one of these guys? If so, which guy do I drop? And do I make a move to add Rashee Rice? Rashee Rice's name has come up a lot the last 3-4 days here. And he's out for 6 weeks. I don't know if everyone thinks he's out 4 weeks. He's out 6 weeks. So I've said multiple times you can add Rice, but remember, we're adding Rice when he's out 6 weeks and buys start in week 5. So everything's fine now if you're healthy and you're not bye weeks. But once those bye weeks start, taking a 0 off a guy who's not active, it's. In this case, though, for Aaron, adding Rice seems to be the correct move to me, because I think that's a better balance on the roster here. Would you hold on to Kelsey or LaPorta? Who would you hold at the tight end spot, Armando?
I think you're splitting hairs. I would probably just go with Kelsey. If you don't feel comfortable starting Rice and Kelsey, right, then go with LaPorta. I think this is a matter of preference for you. I want to say something because we get asked this so much, right? And I want to just, if you don't mind, 1 second about rest of the season and why I think it's such a big mistake. If you were looking at things from a rest of the season standpoint before the Joe Burrow injury in Cincinnati, the value of Chase completely diminishes after, right? So this is why I don't like to make decisions today for the rest of the season. I know sometimes you're trying to look far ahead, but I play this game on a week-to-week basis. And if you want to look maybe a week, maybe 2, and I think that's still too much ahead, sure, I'm okay with being proactive like that. But this is a week-to-week game. Situations change. Before last week, Trey Benson wasn't a potential RB1 in anyone's, a vision in anyone's sight. And now he's a potential RB1 for a lot of people. So things and situations change. And I think looking at things from a rest of the season lens can lead to a lot of mistakes in your decision-making and your process. So try to play this game on a week-to-week basis. And if you're in a decision like this where it's close, try to check off every single box, before looking at things. Oh, who's going to be better the rest of the season? Because situations change very rapidly in the NFL.
Yeah, and I think that my default always, to answer the question, Aaron, is I don't want wide receiver, tight end on the same team. I don't want running back, wide receiver on the same team. If I'm going to do a team thing, it's the quarterback and a pass catcher. So I would say hold LaPorta because I don't want to go Kelsey and Rice. I just don't want to do that. Ethan's got a question about Rashee Rice. He's 3-0, so he feels like he's got some equity build up here. He's trying to make a trade for Rashee Rice. How do you see him performing when he returns? I would say that I would expect him to be their number 1 receiver when he's back. I think, 5 or 6 catches, 65, 70 yards is kind of a baseline is where it would be. Seem fair to you, Armando? You have higher expectation than that, lower?
I think you have a pretty much you can get a potential a top 24, top 30 wide receiver on a weekly basis moving forward once he returns. It's tough to gauge value on him, right? Because I think everyone's going to value him differently. I think it's going to be very dependent on team needs. Like, is the team that's holding Rice, are they 0-3? Are they 3-0? Are they 1-2? Are they 2-1? Like, I think that matters. Are they weak at any position specifically? Did they just get hit by the injury bug? Like, I think every situation with Rice it's a very unique situation. So, like, if you have Rice questions, feel free to ask them in Discord. I don't mind. But give the specifics like we saw Justin do earlier. That way we can help you navigate, because everyone is going to have a very different value on Rice. Like, if I've held him for 3 weeks and I'm entering week 4 and I'm 3-0, I'm not going to give him up for anything cheap. Like, I'm going to sell him at premium price. And it's like, I don't need to sell him. I'm good. And, so every situation is unique, Ray.
And to go back to what Armando said, I just wanted to double up because that was another Rasheed Wright question. I 100% agree with Armando's take on the rest of the season discussion. People are trained to think that way, and I think that's good, right? Because we do want to be forward thinking here. But of all the sports in all the land, football is the most week to week of any of them. For any of them, if you got a top 15 running back or top 15 wide receiver, and I know this is why you never sit AJ Brown, you just start him, right? You just, if it's guy 32 or whatever, then we can start having these discussions. But the bottom line is you're just starting these guys, right? If you're trying to decide, is this guy wide receiver 15 or wide receiver 9 the rest of the way, good luck. No one's got an answer for that. Well, guys, you've got projections. We have projections at the website because you all want them, but good luck. They're not accurate. Okay. You want to be forward thinking, but you can't be saying to yourself everything. As Armando said, no quarterback's going to get hurt. No offensive lineman's going to get hurt. The weather's never going to get involved. The game flow's never going to. It's impossible. So the rest of the season, it's why people ask all the time, why don't you have rest of the season rankings? They're useless. I mean, you gave the perfect example. Joe Burrow went down. The whole offense, their rest of the season rankings, Armando, are useless.
No, they are. I every time I get asked the rest of the season question, I say the same thing. I've never viewed like this, like fantasy football from the rest of the season lens. There's so much variance, too much. And then that's giving bad advice, in my opinion. If I answer your question and say I'm saying it with certainty, then I'm not doing my job properly, in my opinion.
Jim C has got a really tough question here. He's in a 4 bench spot league, which is really small. And he's got a killer group of running backs here. He's got Swift, and then he's got Walker and Charbonnet. He's got Dobbins and Harvey. So he's got Swift and then 2 handcuff situations. So he did a really good job there. But here's his question. Trey Benson's on the waiver wire. Both of us would say that's a mistake. He can't be on the waiver wire. Both of us would say, Jim, you want to obviously get Benson. Who does he drop to make the move here? Does he give up the handcuff situation that he worked so hard to get in 2 situations? And if he does, which guy does he let go to get Benson?
Man, this is tough, Ray. This is tough. Shout out to Jim, by the way. Jim C is a fan of the show, a fan of the pod. He was in there with our bet yesterday. I saw that he posted that. He's in there with our bets yesterday. Jim, this one's tough. I think given the fact that there's only 4 bench spots, I would lean on getting rid of the handcuff because he's not getting you production right now. And I know that's it's tough because we know Charbonnet can be a Benson if Walker were to miss time.
Right.
But you're getting production from Dobbins. You're going to get production from Benson, Walker producing, Swift produce. So for me, I think you just take the running backs that are producing in such a shallow league.
So we get rid of Harvey or Charbonnet? Which guy do we drop for Benson? Harvey?
Yeah.
And again, this is standard. Normal is 6 bench spots, right? And the problem for Jim is, and I was going back and forth with somebody yesterday because they got some weird scoring system, and it's like, well, your weird scoring system negated the good work you did building your team, right? This shallow bench kind of negates what Jim did correctly, which is do exactly what we say to do. Find the right scenario, Denver. Find the right scenario, Seattle. Get the backups. But when Trey Benson comes available, you got to do it.
I wonder who the 5th person on the bench is, because I'm assuming he's starting 2 running backs. That's 3 bench players. I'd be willing to part ways with a receiver here and just say, forget it, because I'm sure that the receivers are going to be very fruitful on waivers. Jim, if you have any receiver, let me know, because I might be willing to hold all of these running backs for now and just have my bench full of running backs and figure out the Olave. Oh, that's tough.
Yeah. Okay. So as Jim, if you get a chance, we got another minute or so here while I ramble on and close the show down. If you can post your receivers, maybe Armando can give you a little bit of an updated answer. Armando Marsal of fantasyguru.com joins us every Tuesday at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. As you heard earlier, he's often on the live stream on Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. He's on the sometimes, I don't know, maybe he'll join the DFS Discord on Friday nights. He's in the DFS live stream on Sunday mornings. He appears on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. If you go to fantasyguru.com, you click the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page, you can find this show cataloged. You can also find his show, Mind of Marsal, cataloged. So Armando, thanks. I guess Jim doesn't have time to get it out there. I vamped as long as I could.
He did. He has Olave. It's tough. He has Chris Olave on the bench.
Oh, there you go. And that's another example. People are really excited about Olave. Hey, man, if you're taking 12 targets a week and giving me 52 yards, your offense isn't very good. Good for Olave, but I mean, he's one of the. I can't say he's disappointing, Armando, but he's literally averaging 12 targets a week and giving you 11 points. That offense is just not good.
Yeah, he's not producing. Jim, hit me up in Discord and DM, and let's talk this one through. I'm interested to see what the waivers look like at the receiver position, because I might be inclined to drop Olave here, bring in Benson, and you only starting 2 receivers. Yeah, reach out to me in Discord, DM me, and we'll talk this one through. But Ray, we got a lot going on this week, like you mentioned. So I'll be dropping the newest episode of Mind of Marsal podcast this afternoon. Russell Clay, I was going to say Ray Clay and myself. Russell Clay and myself will be discussing week 3 injuries and waivers and stuff like that. So make sure you're checking that podcast out this afternoon.
You can also follow him on Twitter X at Armando_Marsal. Armando, thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate it. The positivity, the fun, the smiles, the good advice. We'll do it again a week from now. Have a great rest of week 4.
Yes, sir. Always a blast.
He's Armando. I'm Ray. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com. Justin Fensterman and Rich Miletto will be on the scene tomorrow, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I'll be back Thursday and Friday. Tomorrow, I'm with Jeff Manns on the Elite Sports Show. That's Monday through Friday on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio from 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For Armando, I'm Ray. It's been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.